Hey everyone, welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 Beginner Series. In the last video, we built our first level using basic static meshes and learned how to add and move objects around the scene. Today, we're going to dive deeper into something really powerful, Blueprint, which is Unreal Engine 5's visual scripting system. We will understand what blueprints are, how event grab works, and enable some of the physical simulation for objects in our scene, and understand some key Unreal concepts like objects, actors, components, and references. Before we start, you might be a little bit confused when you reopen your Unreal Engine project for the first time, because this is not the office level we have worked on in our previous lecture. So it's a very simple fix. Instead of going to our map folder and open up test level every single time we reopen our project, we can simply go to our edit, project settings, go to maps and modes on the left hand side, and change the startup map to our test level and game default map to test level as well. With those in place, now next time you reopen the project, we will load into our test level, which is the office scene right off the bat. First, let's open up the level blueprint window. Go to the toolbar and click on Blueprints, Open Level Blueprints. You will see a new window open with multiple tabs. Let's close everything down except the event graph, since that's what we are focusing on today. So what is event graph? The event graph is where we create gameplay logic using nodes. It works similarly to a flowchart. We'll connect different nodes together to make things happen in our game, which is why it's called a visual scripting system. Now let's take a look at all the tools Unreal Engine provides for us in Blueprint system. Right-click anywhere in the event graph, and you can see a massive list of node headers. This is the full Blueprint node library that Unreal Engine provides for us. These nodes allow us to create game mechanics, animation, UI interaction, and much more, all without writing a single line of code. Let's jump right into creating our first Blueprint script using the print string node. First thing first, we can select these two event node and press delete. And find an empty space in the event graph, press right click, type in event begin play. This node is an event node which will run automatically when the game starts for the first time. And right click again on an empty space and type in print string. And double click that and we will have the print string node. Connect the execution pin from the event begin play to our print string. This will allow us to print whatever string we have typed in this print string node as soon as the gameplay begins. As for the print string node, not only we have the execution pin we just connected, we also have the data pin that requires a string for the input. But if we don't want to input any data from elsewhere, we can just type in into the box. And I'm just going to say hello world, just like that. And we can hit compile on top left and hit play. And you can see the blue text is very quick, but hello world right on our screen. So just a quick explanation on how that just happened. The event begin play node triggers when the game starts. The print string node displays a message in the top left corner in blue, and the execution wire shows the order of operation. From left to right, follow the arrow. And this is just a tiny example of how we can utilize Blueprint to achieve what we want in our game. But understanding nodes, events, and execution flow is very important. So we're just going to start from the basics. Next, let's add some physics to our office scene. So in the next lecture, when we are creating our bouncy ball launcher, we can actually do some damage to the furniture or anything in that matter. So let's go back to our test level screen. And I'm just going to select on the statue. And if you can see on the details panel, there's a lot of properties that we can modify. But for now, we're just going to go to the physics section. And as you can see, the simulate physics are disabled by default. And the reason for that is simulating physics in Unreal Engine is very important. And when it's not needed, Unreal Engine will default for disabling it. That's why we have to select all the objects that we want to enable physics and check the simulate physics box right here. And then drag it up from our surface, press play, and it's going to follow the laws of physics to drop down to our tabletop. And that's all because we have enabled the physics and the gravity for this object specifically. And if I enable gravity, And no matter how high up the statue is, it's not going to fall down to our table, and it's going to follow, non-gravity physics. And now I do want this statue to have gravity, so I'm just gonna check the box once again. And I'm just gonna quickly enable gravity and physics to all our furniture in our office. And that's going to be very simple because in the previous lecture, I have grouped up all the furnitures in our level into one single folder. So all I have to do is go to the outliner, select the first object in my folder, and shift select the last object in the same folder. And this will select every single furniture in our game scene. And all I have to do is go to the details panel and enable simulate physics, and also make sure gravity is also enabled. Now let's talk about an important Unreal Engine concept, objects. So what are objects? In programming, an object is a collection of data and functionality. For example, imagine we have an assassin unit in our video game, and that is one single assassin. It's an object in itself. It stores important data such as health, strength, agility, its level, and its experience points. And it also holds functionality such as attack, jump, go to stealth, or any other functionality for that matter. And there could be also other abstract objects such as list and array in any given programming language. And for a list in C++, it stores a list of data, maybe a bunch of numbers or a bunch of string into its object, and its functionality could be, removing the data from the end of the list or adding a new data towards the list. And that could also be an object. And as for actors, which is also an important Unreal Engine concept, an actor, it's objects that exist in a level. So as you can see on my screen, all of these furnitures, they're not only objects, but they are more specifically actors because they are able to exist in our Unreal Engine level. The furniture, the chairs, the statue, the table, they're all Unreal Engine actors. And components, on the other hand, there are special sub-objects that actors can attach to, such as the static mesh component on our round table here. The component itself, it's not existing in the level. We can't see it because it's attached to the table itself. And there's a lot of different components that can alternate the properties for a given object. Such as we can add in a movement component to our table, and it probably can start moving. We can add in, projectile component to our statue, and giving a little bit force from the player, the statue will follow the actual, trajectory like a projectile would. And that's just some quick example on what actors are and components. When the objects, or aka the actors, stores a huge amount of data and functionality, it could be very expensive to copy that set objects and maybe to access its data in our blueprint, which is where reference comes into handy, because a reference is a way to access an object's data and functionality without copying it. Think of reference as in an address for a specific object. For example, if someone asks you, how can I get to your house? I forgot something there. You're not just gonna build a new house right next to them and tell them this is my house. That's going to be a very long and expensive procedure, right? So instead, you're just gonna write down your house address and tell them, here's my house address. You can go there and do what you gotta do. So, for example, for this statue, instead of we copying everything we have in the memory about this statue, we can just provide the address inside the memory for this specific statue to our user and tell them, here's the address. You can go to this address and access every data and the functionality and all the information that you need for this specific statue in our blueprint or programming language. And, in Unreal, we use references all the time to control objects in blueprint without duplicating them. I'm just going to show you a quick example. So let's see. Let me select this long round table, left click, select it, and go back to our level blueprint editor and right click on an empty space, and you can see create a reference to sm_table round 5. And I left click that, and that give me a node which stores a reference to an actor in the level, and that actor, it's this round table that we selected. And from this reference node, we can drag out the blue data pin and type in static mesh component. And we will get the reference for the static mesh component that is attached to our roundtable here. And again, just a reminder, this is the static mesh component, and we have the address for it in our blueprint event graph. And from that point on, I can maybe get the mass of this specific roundtable. I can simply go to the details panel, go to physics, and see the mass property here, which is 819 pounds or kilograms, depending on units. But how am I going to communicate that to my blueprint so I can have, different gameplay functionalities? And that's when the references came into play. So from the return value data pin, I can drag it out and type in print string. And as you can see, it connects it to a round data pin. We don't want to use the get mass to set a print string duration. Instead, I want to print out how heavy is this object. So to break a connection between two nodes, you can hold down Control and left click on that node, or you can hold down Alt and left click. And the difference is hold down Alt and left click basically break the connection, whereas holding down Control and left click, you can quickly relocate the connection to a different ping. And here we're just gonna convert the float, which is the weight, into a string so we can print it to our screen. And we can't forget the execution pin, because just like this, we're going to never be able to access this print string, because the operation flow, it's coming from event play into the first print string, but the connection breaks here. So we have to drag it out from the execution pin into our new print string node. And at the end, we're just gonna hit compile and press play. And as you can see, hello world is printed. And then the weight of our roundtable is also printed. And just like that, that's it for today's tutorial. We learned about blueprint and how the event graph works. We set up a simple print string event to type out hello world. And we enable physics to all our furniture in the office level so we can have some destruction in the future. And we covered key Unreal concepts like objects, actors, components, and references. And for the next video, we are finally going to build our bouncy ball launcher and start destroying our office scene. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comment section what you'd like to learn next. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.